Hey everybody. So today we're going to do a slightly different review. I don't do a lot of gun reviews as much as I used to because of YouTube and the way that they are. But I always said like, hey, if I got something interesting, so I've done the Shadow Systems MR920 Combats. And then I had that Chiappa Rhino, which is a cool as hell 357 revolver. Go check those out. But anyway, today, if you didn't know, I turned 50 years old. So as a birthday present to myself, well, half to myself, and my wife went in on halfsies with me. She was like, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, man, I've been looking for one of these items for a minute. And since the pandemic, supply chain issues, things have been harder to get, and especially these. But it's something I really wanted and wanted one for a couple of years. And I finally saw one pop up in inventory at my local place up in Gainesville, and I was like, gotta have it. So she went on halfsies with me on it, and so went and picked it up. So what might this thing be that we are discussing? So we've got a Henry big boy, lever action, brass receiver, octagonal barrel with semi-buckhorn sights in the venerable 44 mag. So none of these weapons I'm about to bring out are loaded, already done all the safety checks. So they're in safe environment. This is for informational purposes. So YouTube lawyers, hey, we're not shooting anything. We're not doing anything. We're just talking. You gonna sneeze? No, see? Another good place where Apple, get with the goddamn program and give me a pause button. So when I feel that sneeze coming on, or the dogs bark, or someone invariably calls me to sell me on a extended warranty on a vehicle that I traded in 9 vehicles ago, like 10 years ago, it doesn't mess up my video. I could have paused that and then unpaused, and you would be none the wiser. There, elbowing the table. Anyway, I've been wanting one of these for a while. Now, it is not my first lever action. I do have a Marlin 336 here that we'll talk about as well. Let's put this in a more optimal position for me to grab and show it to you. So what I wanted this one for was, I've been on a kick lately. Yeah, I've got the Shadow Systems and lots of ARs and fun, more high-tech stuff. But as I've gotten older, I won't say older, I've actually come to appreciate revolvers. I've come to appreciate bolt actions and lever actions and things because, it might not be the latest and greatest tactical with all the accessories and everything tricked out and all that stuff. But there's something confidence inspiring about a weapon that is basically tried and true. Now, I know you say, but there's any of these weapons. It's not like Glock isn't tried and true, but there's something cool about the historical aspect and the nostalgia, but also just knowing that this is a working man's rifle. And the same things with revolvers. With revolvers, you have the simplicity of loading, simplicity of unloading. Yeah, it's not as fast as a mag swap, but there's other benefits. There are other trade-offs that you get. In addition to that, typically with revolvers, you get more potent calibers. Yeah, you could have a Desert Eagle 50 AE. I don't want a 6-pound gun that's, the size of a shoebox. If it's something I want to carry in the woods, it's got to be manageable. And so, you can get a 10 millimeter, which I'm a huge fan of. But even a 10 millimeter out of a 5-inch barrel, you're getting like just over 700 foot-pounds of energy, which is certainly adequate for hogs and anything you're likely to encounter. But that's about kind of the top range until you start getting into weird specialty one-off stuff like 460 Roland or, things like that. For commercial, off-the-shelf, readily available calibers, revolvers are where you're going to get your power. And so being able to get 44 mag, 454 Casull, 480 Ruger, things like that. Then you start getting up into the Smith & Wesson 500 and the 460 and, things like that. You can get some really crazy calibers. I like 44 mag because it's about at that pinnacle of what I would ever think I could possibly need out of a revolver round while not being in that specialty round niche and not being hard to find. So when you look at a 44 mag, this is from Georgia Arms. This is called their Deer Stopper. This is a 200 grain hollow point pushing at 1650 FPS. Now, that is out of a 6-inch barrel. Typically, I'm shooting that out of, I've got a Taurus. What model is this? I don't know, M66 or whatever it is. This is a Taurus, and this is a 6-inch, actually, sorry, this is a 6.5-inch ported barrel. So it's ported. Typically, you lose a little bit of pressure because of the porting, but they've also extended the barrel to account for that. So basically, this is still going to give you the ballistics of a 6-inch barrel. So you're looking at 1,650 feet per second. You do the calculation, which is velocity squared times the weight of the bullet in grains, and then divide it by 450,240. And so what that gives you is out of a 6-inch barrel, out of something like this, you're going to get about a little over 1,200 foot-pounds of energy, give or take. That's about the same as an AR. Now the AR is flatter flying and going to be more accurate at range, and it's, you know, all that other kind of stuff. But as far as you look at the impact, you're getting the same energy, although you're going to make a much bigger hole with the 44 mag. While you could hunt a hog with an AR, you know, shooting through that big, you've got a big, you know, 300-pound hog, and you got to shoot through the shoulder bone and that mantle they have over them that's kind of like almost like armor. I feel much better using the 44 mag. Will an AR do it? Sure, but foot-pounds of energy doesn't tell the whole story, right? Your foot-pounds of energy is part of the equation, but also how it's imparted. That's a very light, fast bullet, which does very bad damage, as you've seen in the news. It certainly does a lot of soft tissue damage, but when you've got to really kind of punch through something and not have that light bullet expend its energy really quick, you need to kind of really penetrate and punch through something. That's where, you know, your traditional rifle calibers and stuff like that and bigger bullets help. So this is 1,650 feet per second out of a 6-inch barreled revolver. However, out of a 20-inch rifle, you're probably going to add at least 200 feet a second. You're going to get up in that 1,800, 1,900, maybe somewhere in that range. And for the pedantic out there, I know you can say, well, there's different powders and this. I understand that. And certainly you could probably go to Buffalo Bore or one of those companies that make some really almost like 44 Magnum magnums. And punch that up even more. But just going by readily available commercial ammo, if I were to take, and let's just say going from a 6-inch to a 20-inch barrel adds 200 feet a second. 1,850 feet per second times 200 grains in the case of this bullet, divided by 450, 240. That brings it up to over 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. That's a decent wallop. Now, it's not anything compared to a 308 or any of your Magnum hunting rounds, but certainly here in North America, and especially in the South, what am I likely to run into? Two-legged critters. It's more than enough for that. Even a big hog, plenty to take down a big hog within 100 yards. Deer, yep. Black bear, yep. So this is certainly a potent caliber. Unless I get up to something like a bison, I'm probably not going to run out of steam with that out of the rifle. Now, going to the 30-30 like my Marlin, will I get a little more power out of it? Yeah, this is a rifle round. Even though it's not a particularly powerful one in the big scheme of things, it does pack a bit more pressure, a bit more, maybe not more pressure, but it does pack a bit more punch. These out of the box are 160 grain. This is the Hornady Lever Revolution round, which has the ballistic tip, so it gets a little bit better, superior performance downrange. But we're looking at a little over 2,000 foot-pounds. So even this one punched up out of a longer barrel is only around 1,500. This still has a good bit more. Is it enough to make a big difference? I don't know. Depends on where you are and what range you're at and what you're shooting at. But I like having a pistol caliber in a rifle. With the 44 mag, you're up in the range of some rifle rounds, so it's more than adequate for anything. But also, you know, when you think about a shit hit the fan type of scenario or something like that, or you're out in the woods hunting and you want a backup gun, having a rifle that is in the same caliber, and you can swap bullets back and forth. If you're running low on the rifle, grab them out of your pistol or vice versa, your revolver rather. It's nice having that interchangeability. So being able to go back and forth. So this is the Henry. This is the big boy. I didn't go with the side gate because I wanted the brass, more authentic kind of cowboy looking one, but it is all American made. That is their motto, made in America or not at all. It is using brass, although it is not your typical brass. It's a hardened brass, so brass is an alloy by itself, but this has a much harder alloy, but you get the look of the brass in the mirror finish, but then you've also got the, you know, the strength and the longevity that's going to be closer to steel. You got brass on the barrel band. You've also got brass polished on the buttstock. And normally I go, ooh, metal buttstock, but out of a 44 mag, out of a barrel like this, that's a pretty heavy barrel that's octagonal, so it's got a little more heft to it. You're not gonna have a lot of, it's gonna be very controllable, you know, recoil out of this. The action out of this, out of the box, very smooth, really nice action. You can replace and get the big hoop if you want. That makes it a little more comfortable, or if you've got winter gloves, if you're out on a hunt, makes it easier to squeeze your hand if you got mittens in there. So that is an upgrade. You just remove that screw and I could probably put the other one in. I think it's only like $50 or $70 or something. But it's got a brass bead on the front. And the way you load this thing is it doesn't have the side loaders like my Marlin does. I'll bring that one up in a minute just to show you the difference. What it does have is it is tube fed. So you push this in, you pull the tube out. Once you get it out enough, you're gonna drop your shells and they just slide down. What's also nice about this is that when you wanna unload it, so let's say you're out there on a hunt, you go all day, you didn't shoot anything, didn't see any game. When you come back, you don't have to sit there and work the lever and basically chamber rounds and then have to eject the rounds, kind of like a pump shotgun. Some pump shotguns don't give you a way to remove the rounds. You have to sit there racking. And every time you do, there's always a chance of, well, what if you hit the trigger or something? So here, you pull this out and tilt the barrel the other way and have it face down, and all your bullets just go whoop and just slide out. So very quick to load and unload. What I also like about this, going with the pistol caliber in a 20-inch barrel, is let's compare it to the other one I've got here. I've got a model 336 from Marlin. This also unloaded. This is also, I think this one's also American made. It doesn't have the regular, the octagonal barrel. It's got the lighter barrel, which also heats up a lot faster, especially with the rifle round. It does have a wood stock. It's got a plastic, because the recoil's, you know, negligible. And this one, you load through the side gate, and then you're gonna have to, there's no way to take this, it's all pinned together. There's no way to take the end off and remove the bullets that way. So this one is a little bit smaller. This is the Carbine. This is the 16-inch barrel. So a little lighter, a little more wieldy, I'd say, in the woods or something like that. Similar sights. You know, you do have a post over a hood over the front, but this one's just standard blued. It's also less than half the price. So this one is a nice little rifle. But here's the difference. While you do get more power out of the 30-30 than you do with the 44 mag, this holds 5 or 6 plus 1, so it might be 6 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. This holds 10 plus 1. So you're getting at least, if it's not 5 plus 1, it may be 6 plus 1. So you're getting at least 4 more rounds. So will that make a difference? I don't know. But you give up a little bit of power, maybe a little bit of range. I don't know that I would try to take game or whatever out past 150 yards with the 44 mag. But the beauty of where I live is that, you know, there's a lot of woods around here. I'm near the mountains and stuff like that. We're not open plains or prairie or something like that where you've got 200, 300, 400 yard shots. Maybe down in South Georgia somewhere, you might have some fields, you know, on a farm somewhere and want to take a hog at that range. Well, in that case, I'll bring 308, you know. Typically in the woods around here or where you would be hunting, if you can get more than maybe there's a clearing in the forest and maybe you get a 75 or an 80 or 120 yard shot, but even that's sort of unusual unless you're out on a farm with some cleared land. Anywhere in the woods, you're not going to have that length of a shot. So I'd rather have a couple more rounds that still pack a wallop than that. Now, the one thing I will say about this is the weight. This is a heavier rifle. That is a big old heavy steel barrel. What that's going to do is be a little bit more fatiguing if you're shooting offhand. However, it's going to eat up more recoil, and watching other videos of these things, you could be sitting there shooting this for a good bit before that barrel starts to heat up. This barrel is going to get hot relatively quickly. I would also say the quality on the lever on the Henry is going to be better than the Marlin. Henrys are known to be very well made, very smooth out of the box, very reliable. And the Marlin's not a bad gun, but for the last few years, their quality isn't what it used to be in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even going back further than that. It's still a good rifle. It's never let me down. The one issue I did have was this screw on the barrel band snapped. It was like cheap pot metal. It snapped, and this thing came loose, which then this thing came loose, and I had to go to Brownells and just, buy a new one and Loctite it. And so far it's been holding up. This has been a very reliable. The action has really smoothed out, and it's a really nice action. This does have a safety. You can half cock it if you want. You can leave it back. You can be on the hunt with the safety on, and then all you gotta do is click your safety off and take your shot. This is tapped for scope mount and rails, but so is the Henry. So I'll put this one down. This one also is you can buy the mount from them for relatively cheap. Get yourself some red Loctite, mount your whatchamacallit, your rail there, and then you can put whatever optic on there. I'm not gonna do that. If I put an optic on something, I'm gonna put it on the Marlin. This one, I wanna keep traditional. I like this a lot. There's just something about it where, you buy it for the power and the effectiveness of it, but also the inner cowboy in me I want to be a cowboy. You can be my cowgirl. Well, Donna's already my cowgirl, but you know what I mean. Just seeing if anybody gets that reference. If you're in my age bracket, you'll get that reference. So that's what we've got. I'll do a range review when I actually get it to the range. I've got and the other thing is, being 44 Magnum for hunting, I've also got a ton of 44 Special rounds, which is going to be even lighter recoil. It's going to go boom. It's going to barely, have any recoil with a 44 Special. But this is going to be a really nice potent hog or coyote gun or anything like that where I can get within 100, 150 yards of something. I mean, even bear, it's going to do the job. So I like it. I like it a lot. This is going to be a great, great little shooter. And also, there's the other thing. You see what's going on legislatively. And I'm not being all panicky Pete about this and, they're coming for my guns. But we all know they're coming for our guns. And, all the rage right now is going after, pistols with magazines more than 15 rounds, which is, a lot of pistols. And ARs, AKs, anything that looks scary or was ever used as a prop in a Schwarzenegger film is what they're going after. That's the low-hanging fruit. That's what they think is scary, and because those do seem to be, even though they're the least used overall in homicides, AR-15s are the most commonly used by these small handful of psychopaths that do these high-profile shootings that we hear about. And that's just unfortunate. So while I have all those, and I'm not getting rid of them anytime soon, no matter what anybody says, having pump-action shotguns, having bolt guns, having lever guns, I think makes sense from a practicality standpoint, because as much as I don't think, they're going to get the votes to do this, I'm hoping I got another 30, maybe 40 years on the planet if I'm lucky. I think that in that time, we're going to see some severe crackdowns on stuff. I think at one point there's going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. There's going to be a shooting that happens. Maybe it takes place in Washington or something, and it scares the Republicans enough that they get on board with the Democrats, and there's going to be some sweeping gun control. I just feel it. You look at our society, and we can't figure out what gender we are, and everybody's just virtue signaling, and very few people are using their brains anymore. Everything's just by emotions, and so many people don't understand the Constitution. They don't know what it means. They don't understand the historical relevance and how pivotal and structural it is to our way of life. They just don't get it, and our public school systems don't do anything to make them get it. I would argue that we dumb them down intentionally so that people don't understand that, so they don't know and realize, and therefore don't resist when their rights are being violated. I'll say that for another conversation for another day, because that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But the scary guns that we all like, because they're very practical, they're low recoil, they're accurate, they're fun to go to the range and shoot. They also make good home defense weapons. Those are going to be infringed on at some point, I believe, in my lifetime. So stocking up on guns like this, and all my revolvers, bolt guns, pump action shotguns, and these, I don't want to see anything happen, and I don't plan to comply with any unconstitutional gun restrictions. However, I'm not going to be so bold or foolish enough to think that if it came down to it and there was a gun grab, it's one thing to say, well, I'll just bury it in the backyard. I won't get rid of my ARs no matter what. I don't plan to, but ultimately, if it went that way where they said, look, these are banned. You have 90 days to turn them in. After that 90 days, anybody caught with one of these banned weapons, whether it be a high capacity magazine for a pistol or AR, or having the AR or the AK, if you ever get caught with that, each weapon is 5 years in prison or 10 years in prison, and you lose your gun rights and your voting rights for life when you do finally get out of prison. At that point, will I hold on to those knowing I can't, it's great you bury them in the backyard. Okay, well, I can't go out and use them. I can't hunt with them. I can't take them to the range. I can't transport them to my cabin because God forbid I got pulled over for something stupid and get caught with it, and I'm in the slammer for 30 years because I had 3 of them with me. And basically that's a life sentence for someone, that's going to be in their 50s or 60s or whenever this happens. At that point, am I going to hang on to those, knowing that they are now more of a liability than anything? And you can say, well, can you put a price on being able to protect yourself and freedom? Okay. Reality is I can protect my home with this. You may look at it and go, oh, it's a cowboy gun. Is anybody going to stand in front of 11 shots of 44 Magnum hollow points, or a bunch of rounds of double-aught buck, or slugs, or 357 Magnum, or a 44 mag revolver? Guns like this are the guns that we always talk about won the West. The Wild West was not fun. It was a really hard thing. People were fighting off Indian tribes and wild animals and bandits and cutthroats and all kinds of stuff. The lever action rifle was the great equalizer. Being able to very rapidly boom, boom, boom. And maybe the reload wasn't as fast. It was faster than a single action revolver probably, but being able to put down pretty decent damn firepower. And I would say compared to the rifle rounds back in that era, a 44 mag coming out of a 20-inch barrel was probably somewhat comparable to most rounds of that era. I know that there's the 45-70 and there's, we've got some more, there are some more powerful rounds, but I would say, like a 44 mag, I believe is more than a 44 long Colt and things like that. So having a gun like this, or the Marlin, the 30-30, or even one of these in a 357 Magnum, which they make. I don't know what, if I had to, could I defend myself or my home or my wife or whomever? Could I put food on the table with this if I didn't have access to ARs or more powerful weapons? Yeah. So I think I got it because I want it. I think it's going to be a blast to shoot. I'm going to start getting more into hog hunting and things like that. Officer Mike, let's pick some time and let's come down to your property and get Porky the pig and his buddies, maybe Yotes and stuff like that. I think this is going to be perfect for that. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun, because I'm not going to have the super high powerful long distance round with a scope and all that other kind of stuff. I'm going to be shooting a revolver round out of a 20-inch barrel with oldie-timey buckhorn sights. I think that's going to make it challenging and fun, rather than, a 308 with a really, I've got a really nice scope and a really nice setup on a 308 bolt gun, where I could pick it off at 300 yards like nothing, with a bipod, and I could just sit there and snipe it. This is going to be, I think, a little bit more challenging, a little more fun. I think it's going to be a more enjoyable gun to shoot and more rewarding experience. This is also something that when the gun bans, unfortunately, do start happening, they're going to start with that stuff, with the ARs and the AKs and the 20-round Glock mag, all that crap. It's going to be an incremental thing. Eventually, they'll come for them all. Eventually, they'll try to have the votes to just, maybe 100 years from now, it may not be my problem anymore, maybe somebody else's. But I think things like a revolver, they're going to be the last on the list. A pump-action shotgun, because it is so versatile, it's lower capacity, and is used so commonly for hunting and things, that's going to be the last to go. Something like this, they're going to look at this and go, oh, that's more of a collector item, or that's more of a cowboy shooting gun, or recreational shooting, maybe hunting, but you can't increase the capacity. It's a 150-year-old design. I think guns like this will be last to pop up on the radar and to be under assault. So for all of those reasons, the fun factor, the cool, the nostalgia, the neatness of holding a piece of history, but not being, having modern manufacturing techniques and modern materials, but looking and performing more like an authentic rifle, but without the reliability issues or the poor construction or poor fit. That was my main motivator. But I also think that at some point it makes sense to have guns like this, because as other guns are ultimately, I feel, unfortunately, going to be taken off the market at some point, you're going to need something. So going back to the older, more classic style stuff, I think is going to be a smart move and a wise investment to have these kinds of things. And in the meantime, maybe it never happens, but you have a really cool gun, you own a historical design, and you're having a lot of fun with it. The one thing I got to figure out on this one, though, on this Henry, is there doesn't appear to be a safety on this. The safety is going to be keep your damn finger off the trigger and don't have it cocked. But I know it has a transfer bar, so if the hammer were to drop accidentally or something were to happen, or you're to hit it, without that trigger being fully depressed, it's not going to touch that round off. But if you were to, rack around, there is no safety to put on. The safety is going to be to very carefully drop the hammer. And that's the case on a 1911. Some people carry it cocked and locked. Some people will load it and then, have to drop the hammer. They don't want it locked, cocked all the time. So it's the same kind of thing. It's going to be, I'll make sure I read the manual on this before taking it to the range. But I think that's something I need to, you might want to be mindful of on the Henry, is that at least on this one now, maybe on their side loaders, I'll have to look. Maybe they're more like the Marlin, but the Marlin has it right here. So you got a safety right where you would expect it to be. So that one you can have the hammer back and then boop, put on the safety and you can hit it and nothing happens. So anyway, that is my review. I do like my Marlin. I like that it's a little more powerful. I like that it's a side loader. And that it's a little more compact and light. But I think the gun that I'm actually going to have more fun and is a better quality and has higher capacity and all that good stuff and a nicer fit and finish, this is the one. I've been wanting it for years. So thank you to my beautiful wife for helping me get that and going halfsies in there on me, with me on that. That is going to be a fun little shooter, so can't wait. Action is very nice and smooth, smoother than the Marlin, and the Marlin's been shot a good bit. As far as trigger pull goes, amazing. That is like a 1911 trigger. That is so much better than the Marlin. The Marlin's not a bad trigger. It's a decent trigger. This is literally, there is almost no movement. It's just like clicking a mouse button. That is like a finely tuned 1911 trigger. That is phenomenal. Now, because of that, you need to be careful. That is a very crisp, light, single stage trigger with no creep. It's just, you push it and like a mouse button, it just goes click and you barely even see it moving. So with that not having a safety, don't walk around in the woods with this with the hammer back. Load your round and then safely point it at the ground and drop that hammer like you would a 1911 if you were going to drop the hammer manually. Don't let it snap down. Use your head, right? Use all the gun safety rules. And walk around and, if you're in the woods and you don't want to spook the game, but you see your hog or your deer, you can just click. It's a very light click, may or may not hear it, but certainly it's a lot less and less likely to be heard than, racking it. But carry it with the hammer down in this case, because there is no manual safety. So that's going to be your safety. Don't be one of those guys climbing over a fence and drops his gun and shoots himself, or getting into the tree stand with the damn hammer back. You might have it loaded, so if you do see something, you can shoulder it, cock it, and take your shot. But that is the Henry Big Boy. Very nice, beautiful, elegant, classy. It's very, very cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I don't do a lot of gun reviews much and talk about firearms as much as I used to, just because the tech gods aren't a big fan of the Second Amendment or the Constitution in general. So, but if it's something cool and it's something special, that's special. That's cool. Hope you enjoyed. Hit like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time, everybody.